I am very happy to welcome Maria Rosendahl. She's the head of industrial policy Technique for Atagan. Warm welcome, Maria. And Technique for Atagan, as for those who already know or may know, is a trade body of 4,500 Swedish industry companies. Warm welcome. I also have Christopher Dreiman, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer and and the head of responsible investment, Landsforskninger AB. We please come in, Shivesh. We also have Shivesh, who will come much later. He's bringing in his humanoid. That would be in the evening, later part of the session. But of course, show stealer. But it is. I also would like to bring in Professor Bjorn Johansson, Professor Chalmers University. He's the Professor of Sustainable Production and also head of the research group that's responsible for this humanoid. And warm welcome, Bjorn. I welcome Carlota Brask, who is, head of sustainability, Telia, Sweden. She works on sustainability at Sweden and is quite at forefront in dealing with what Telia needs to do as far as some of the new cutting edge work is concerned. John, warm welcome to you again. And I have the pleasure of welcoming Rutvika Acharya. She heads a startup called Capitalizer, and it actually builds a membrane-free electrolyzer technology to make green hydrogen production cheaper. So I would love to know more about that. And finally, I would like to welcome John Outtinen. He's the CEO and co-founder of LV, which interestingly turns home VV charging into flat rate subscription model. So he says no per kilowatt anxiety. So I'll come to you for that, right? Carlota, maybe we'll start with you. I believe you have an announcement to make, so maybe everybody knows about it.
Yes, actually earlier this spring, Telia announced a collaboration with Brookfield, talking about American money coming into innovation. So they are going to spend 95 Swedish billion krona on building data centers in Sweden, and Telia is partnering up to operate and deliver AI services on top of that. But last week you could see that also KTH joined that collaboration in order to having industry and research trying out using a test bed, for example, so actually accelerating and elevating the speed of the AI transformation in Sweden. And if you're more interested, you could actually listen to a seminar tomorrow at 10 o'clock at Telia's. So Brookfield and Telia and KTH are going to talk about this collaboration. So it's great. So we hopefully will build sovereign, safe and sustainable AI infrastructure in Sweden.
Perfect. Congratulations. I think sovereign AI is the flavor of the month across multiple regions. So, Carlota, I'll stay with you for a little while, right? And if I have to go ahead and imagine Telia's business, reimagine Telia's business for my own understanding, Telia is in a core infrastructure business. You provide bandwidth. And in many ways, bandwidth is often seen as a highway. You drive your car, and then you've got different kinds of data packs, and you've got toll gates, etc. But with AI coming in, it seems that you suddenly have an opportunity to make this highway really super smart.
Yes.
How does Telia look at AI and innovation from the context of this particular?
Yes, of course, AI can do a lot, but it's really important now when we are investing together with Brookfield a lot. It's to have the sustainability agenda from the very beginning, building something that's actually sustainable. So I would say it's really important with the infrastructure, the location in Sweden, doing it in a sustainable way in the municipalities, with the societies, building something that's actually green, circular, but also a part of the municipality or the society where you build the data center. So there are a lot of things you can do about the infrastructure, but then of course also what you operate and deliver on top. That's also really important. So I think AI can, of course, improve the services we have, and applied AI is actually one of the AI services that actually has the opportunity to reduce climate impact in comparison to large language models,
Sure.
for example. So I think that building something that's sustainable from the infrastructure, but also thinking about how we create the service, the platforms we use, it's not too big. We have the green software on top. And the final thing is actually what we do with the AI for sustainability, to giving the opportunity to the municipalities to actually use the data they have. Because now they are struggling a little bit with having platforms from big tech companies not really knowing how to use the data. When we do it secure and sovereign, they can actually start using the really important data. That's the core of the municipality, and support the steering of the municipality, because that's not the case today. You don't really use all your data in the AI services systems today.
Yeah. So I'll come back to that,
Yeah.
Carlota. I do know that you now work for Telia, but you've also come from Region Gotland, so you have a unique perspective towards private goods and public goods. I'll take that up later.
Yes.
Maria, if I can come to you, right? So you're the head of industrial policy, and I do believe that you're also leading the advanced digitalization program in Teknikföretagen. So how does Teknikföretagen look at AI in innovations, especially considering that you have 4,500 engineering companies? Large companies usually do have the deep pockets to take care of these things.
Yep.
But what about smaller, agile startups?
Yeah, that's right. We are an employers organization, and we have about 4,600 member companies now, and counting. And as you say, the larger companies, they can do a lot of things on their own. However, also they need support. I will come back to that with advanced digitalization. But the small and medium-sized companies, it varies a lot. But I would say all of them have an agenda. It's part of who they are. It's part of the competitiveness to use the new technologies that are available. So some of them have come long, but others are laying behind, obviously. And you mentioned advanced digitalization, which we are heading at Teknikföretagen. This is a public-private partnership strategic innovation program that we have run now for 4 years. And a lot has happened during these 4 years, and I think AI is now on the agenda. It wasn't actually 4 years ago. It was totally different. But now that's part of the program. And I think it's also what you mentioned, this collaboration model that I think we need more of in Sweden to also support the SMEs companies in particular.
And just to stay with that question, as part of your Teknikföretagen and the fact that you are a group of 4,600 companies, do you also sort of see a flow of learning and information from the larger companies to the smaller companies and vice versa?
Yeah.
Is that that's something?
And vice versa, as you say, it goes both ways. And we see a larger need for that. And I think that's actually partly driven from the larger companies. They need more support from companies like Flower, for example, but also from the established tech industry, from the small established industry sector. So I think the collaboration is increasing, and it's not possible anymore. We need to work in horizontal arenas more than we used to do.
Sure. Christopher, you have a fascinating double title, right? Chief Sustainability Officer, Head of Responsible Investments, and then it's your job to go ahead and ensure that every single krona that you put in is responsible, is also sustainable. It seems like too much to do. How do you, and then you have AI now, right? So how do you do it?
Working? Exactly. So LF is a financial warehouse. We're a bank, insurance company, but also a big investor. And I'll wear the investor hat in this panel. So, as you alluded to, responsible AI is sort of the next climate topic that we are engaging investees, meaning those companies we invest in on, both privately owned companies as well as public companies. And a challenge at the moment is that if you have been following this sort of sustainability debate for decades, we used to talk about governance in the 80s. Governance is still relevant, but it's been a focus for decades. Social aspects, climate aspects, for the past decades, and now during the last year or so, it's much more focused on responsible AI. And the challenge we face now is that the disclosure is very low, if at all, there. So we face quite a lot of challenges to get information from companies, both the tech companies, but also basically companies in the whole value chain, on how they use AI and the impact of their AI use. So it's not just about the data center and the energy consumption and water consumption of the data centers. So this goes across pretty much all the sectors we invest in. So we need something equivalent to what you mentioned from Credible, TCFD for AI. We need some kind of disclosure framework that we can leverage in our ownership activities with companies.
Right. And just to stay with the question, does Landforsk use its LF? Does it use its own AI model to dig out information that the companies are not giving for your responsible investment decisions, or not yet?
No, so we use that both through partnership with so-called ESG data providers. So some of them have started to use AI technologies in order to provide us with better ESG information about those companies we invest in. So that's one part of the solution in the toolbox. We're also leveraging the AI modules used to basically have agents conducting research on our behalf. So we're leveraging both on the investment side, but also in order to make allocation decisions.
Thanks. Bjorn, I'm coming on to you. You're a professor, but someone who also seems to be doing a lot at the ground level, which is a rarity in many ways. As the professor of sustainable production, it essentially means that you also have to, in some form or the other, connect to circular economy and to new business models, right? How do you see AI going ahead and sort of contributing to that, right? Sort of a single theory of everything, if one may.
Yes, I think AI is a great tool for that. It's like a Swiss Army knife that is modular, and you can use it for many things. You cannot solve everything, of course, but a lot of things. And if you look at it in the retrospective way, sustainability reporting has been like after the fact since like 10, 20 years back. But now we can do much better predictions, forecasting, understanding, getting into the economical models to understand how to invest in a smart way for sustainability, how to balance the grid, for example. You talked about that. That's great as well. But of course, we still do emissions. So the goal was to have zero emissions about 2040, 2050, but now it looks like 2060 from the last report from Net Zero Industry, the impact innovation with Teknikföretagen, also funded by Vinnova as well. So that's a bit tough. Sweden emitted about 4.5 tons of CO2 emissions per person 10 years ago. And this year is predicted to be about 3.5 tons. In India, it's less than 3 tons already, but you are a bit more people in India.
Yeah, so per capita is something else altogether. Yeah.
But for a science perspective, then, for me, it's more important to gather the facts, to get the facts to the politicians, to decision makers. What should we do to do the right thing? And then, of course, it's more than ethics to choose the right things from the research perspective. And this robot, for example, has about 1 ton CO2 emissions to be produced. But using it for a year in Sweden is like 100 kilo CO2 emissions. You can use it full time. So if it can operate in a factory, it will be really good for the environment to have this kind of help.
Yeah, fantastic. So one of the things that I'll just stay with you for 30 more seconds, Bjorn. So when you do talk about sustainable production and then you talk about a circular economy, it also means that you have to go ahead and work with either industry associations or a group of companies for them to change their business model, because circular means reuse, reduce, refuse, right? So how do you do that?
So in the constellation of the research projects we have with Teknikföretagen and Vinnova and other funding agencies, we have one starting up now with 74 partners on Euro FMX. It's an AI implementation industry, so network in Europe. And you cannot really do it one single company. You have to have the network. Same with advanced digitalization. We have 10 partners per project roughly. Solution providers, industry, the value chain, so to say. So that's definitely the only way to do it.
Perfect. John, I come to you. Great, fascinating presentation. So one of the things that struck me was that assuming that I was a energy company, typical fossil fuel energy company. So I do know the price of coal. I do know where I'm going to get the coal from. I'll have a fairly predictable view in terms of commodity prices, etc. But in your case, it seems that your fundamental decision intelligence itself is different. You need to have information about, oh, is it going to shine today? Is it going to rain? Is the wind going to be good, bad, ugly? So
Yeah,
it seems like a completely different
No,
ball game altogether.
I think we're supplying the same commodity as your classical utilities, but we're doing it in a fundamentally different way. And I think if the classical utilities would be very accustomed to having these large coal-fired power plants or nuclear plants as well, where it's more about just keeping uptime and keep generating over a long time. But they are sort of in charge and they can dispatch those assets. Moving into renewable system, you're not in control of what your assets are putting out. So all of a sudden, you need in real time to both update your view constantly of all these assets and then act on that decision. So we can update our within seconds, we can redispatch our entire assets of tens of thousands of EV chargers, hundreds of wind turbines. We do that continuously. And you can't do that as a legacy utilities organization is structured right now with manual trader, manual processes, Excel sheets being sent back and forth, because you're gonna lose out because weather is changing faster than you can adapt. So you need to redo your business model there. And why I think we still have this reason to exist then is because if you look at the price point for coal or gas, it's actually also then higher than what we have. So why should we protect these old ways of doing things just because we're accustomed to how we do it when there's a new way which is then both sustainable and sovereign as well. And I think that's what we're trying to change, is trying to say this is the new way and trying to, and I mean, hopefully we'll get other utilities to join us as well. I mean, we're not going to change the world ourselves, but we're trying to prove that there's a business model there.
Indeed, indeed. It seems that listening to you, it seems that the most valuable employee would be the climate modeler in your company.
I wouldn't single out anyone. They're all fantastic people.
Yeah. Rutvika, welcome back. You were here last year, and I do know that you're working on a specific membrane technology for green hydrogen production, and you seem to be slightly ahead of the curve in terms of bringing the production costs down. Most of the people are still trying to sort of work out green hydrogen, different kinds of technology. Storage is an issue, etc. So.
Yeah, I think I'll just start with a one-liner on what is green hydrogen or why we need it, just for the room. So if we just take something as simple as our water, which we all know as H2O, and we split it with help of electricity, we can produce hydrogen and oxygen. And hydrogen from fossil fuels is already used for steel making, ammonia, petrochemical industry, so it causes a lot of CO2 emissions. So to decarbonize heavy industries, we really need green hydrogen. Now, you already mentioned about challenges, and actually John also touched a little bit upon it, but this technology has been existing for a long time. But the market that it was built for and the market that we are in today look very different. Today's market, electricity is cheap, but it's renewable. It's intermittent, you need flexibility. Current technologies are actually built for stable power. Sustainability targets alone are not gonna drive the change or transformation. You need cost to come down for these technologies. And then we all talked about sovereignty, we talked about resilience, so like local manufacturability, not being dependent on rare metals from certain geographies and so on. These are all things that current technologies rely on. So marginally improving the way we do something is not going to solve the problem. And that's what we are trying to do differently as Capitalizer, is rethink electrolysis. We don't do electrolysis the way we know it, where you would split your water and you produce both your gases, but we actually only produce either hydrogen or oxygen. And by completely rethinking this, we get rid of membranes, we get rid of rare metals, we can be fully dynamic to intermittent power, so you could directly couple to your renewable energy sources, and this way actually bring costs down, because that's what's going to attract the industry to finally adopt it and not go for penalties in terms of carbon credits and so on. So yeah, that's what we are trying to do and rethinking it, so that and I believe that's also why other technologies are not able to move as fast, because we are just making a better membrane or a cheaper electrode material is not going to fundamentally change the problem.
And from where Capitalizer stands, what would be your best use case in the future? So you're producing green hydrogen. Where do you see your green hydrogen being used? Is it for freight transportation, or is it personal transportation, cars, bikes?
Yeah, so I think this is also for green hydrogen, you hear mostly about mobility.
Exactly.
That's what people think.
Yeah.
But actually, 100 million tons of fossil fuel-based hydrogen is already used for steel industry, which is really important for Sweden, for example.
Yeah.
Fertilizers, petrochemical. So our main target is to go in the sectors that are already using fossil hydrogen and that need to anyways shift to green hydrogen. But then there are also, of course, emerging sectors that are going to be enablers, like power utilities. They are going to be the people who either are selling to off-takers, they're using it for grid balancing, local production, or even data centers. So we start with the big industries who are already using it, but we do see use cases with long-haul transport, shipping, aviation, data centers, and so on.
Sure. Thanks, Rutvika. Johan, I'm coming to you. You seem to have an extremely interesting model of going ahead and optimizing power at an household level, networking it, and then creating a mechanism to redistribute the power depending on where it's required. That's the way I've understood it. Please do tell me if I'm wrong or if there's something else that needs to be brought in. Yeah.
No, that's correct.
Yeah.
So at LVB, we basically have a fixed price energy subscription for residential homeowners. Why do we target the residential homeowners? Well, if you look at real estate, it's one of the biggest consumer of energy in the market. And for the longest of time, we have been focused on innovating on the generation side, the production side. However, demand side is still is lacking flexibility. And what we have been doing is targeting, making sure that the demand side becomes flexible, because that means we can strengthen the energy system as a whole. We can free up capacity to build out data centers, to increase the computing power, for example. And we believe that we should do it by introducing simplicity to the homeowner. The homeowner today are faced with far too much complexity. They're not educated to make all this decision. It's complex assets, a lot of money at stake. So what we at LV have done is introducing simplicity to our product to ensure we unlock the hidden power reserve in the residential sector.
That's fantastic to hear, Johan. I was talking to Christopher the other day. He's your co-founder, and he's also there. And he was saying that you have a very interesting model. You are actually de-risking the whole risk for the consumer by going ahead and investing in renewable energy assets yourself and then deploying at the house. Is that how? Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So basically, we have three work streams. One of them is the risk underwriting. If we provide a totally flat cost of energy for homeowners, means that we onboard the risk. So we need to understand it, we need to price it, we need to underwrite it. And then we need to make sure that we deploy the assets we need to create flexibility. That's the operational work stream. And then we have our capital work stream, meaning that we need to connect capital, meaning banks, to finance the asset deployment. And by making sure these work streams comes together, we can provide this simplicity to the common homeowner. And this is really where you see AI potential coming to fruition, because we can deploy agents into this workflow, and that's accelerating the green transition, because that cuts the deployment of our assets by half. So it's super powerful for us.
Thanks, Johan. So I'm going to come back to Carlota, and we'll have to do a quick round because I'm already getting signals, but very quick round. Carlota, I just wanted to ask you, you've been in Region Stockholm and municipalities, and now you're at Telia, right? How do you see a combination of public good and private good coming together with AI coming in? Because you've seen the public side and you've seen the private side. And
it's not such a big step for me, because it's about, building sustainable societies in the region and in the municipality. You build something for the people living there, thinking really long term. And that's just the top of the iceberg, because you use a lot of suppliers in order to do that as well. So now I just step to the supplier side, still supporting the regions and municipalities to build sustainable societies. But I think knowing the needs of the regions and the municipalities is a good thing to bring into the business of Telia, of course. As I said about this data problem, because I worked with city planning, and what you do is you know that you have so much data and you can't use it and you can't produce it, or you don't really know. So you know there are answers there how to actually develop your city in a better way. I think that's a great, having this, as I said, secure sovereign data, you can start, that's like the foundation for innovating how you plan and how you deliver to the inhabitants in the city.
Absolutely. Maria, I'm coming to you. Part of your digitalization program, very quick ones, right? I do see that there's always been a Pareto in any industry body. You've got the big players dominating, and then you've got a long tail, right? Do you see some sort of a evenness coming in with AI, especially with additive manufacturing and digital twins coming in? Do you see a much more open source kind of a collaboration possible?
Yeah, definitely. That is what we see, and as I mentioned before, it's driven from a competitiveness perspective. So I think we will see even more of that moving forward.
Perfect. Christopher, I want to be responsible in my investments, but I still don't get a one integrated view of where do I put my money as a retail investor. Any thoughts on how you're going to use AI to make my job easier and morally light on me?
There's no silver bullet. No, but I think I'll give you an unfair answer if I say that you can look at a fund with a rating or a point, and that will give you an informed view of the fund's sustainability profile. We need to digest it more, at least into the material, environmental, social, and governance topics. So, not a top score, but more granular, and there AI can help. If I just may give one example, last year from our investments, we reported that we own 16 million tons of CO2 through ownership of SSAB, Saab, etc. This year, we reported 26 million. So we didn't, change our investments drastically, but still the CO2 figures went up significantly. And this is where I think AI can help to validate the figures we used in our investment processes, so we actually know whether it's just an estimated figure we actually try to manage or if it's real.
Sure. Bjorn, I'm going to ask you a tough one. When I see the humanoid sitting in front of me, I've got mixed emotions, right? On one hand, I'm imagining dark factories and saying, everything will be sustainable, nice, zero carbon, but I'll not have a job, right? That's one. The second is that I see the same humanoid going ahead and really working in disaster areas and rescuing people that otherwise I as a human being may not be able to rescue. How do you see this developing as someone at the forefront of sustainable production, but also humanoid research?
Thank you. So for the humanoid part, I think this one is done in aspect to fulfill to be working in a brownfield factory, a factory already existing where humans worked before. So it would look like a human because that has to be able to climb the stairs, move and reach everything that we reach. But in a dark factory, that doesn't have to look like a human. When I saw them fall when they ran the marathon, I did like this, ow! But it doesn't actually hurt them in that sense. But I think for the AI in general, I think it's a great opportunity for sustainability to use AI. But we also have to think about the input, the data we give to the AI. So what does this need? It needs a lot of input, and it doesn't have so many sensors like we have. But for that, in that aspect, I think time series, LLMs, and image recognition, we need to consider also not only the tool, the Swiss Army knife, the modular one, but also the nails, the bolts, and the screws that we should use it on. So that it's not AI friendly in a factory today, for example. So it's something to consider for the future.
Yeah. So a very interesting point, Bjorn, in the sense, in the morning I had a fireside chat with Frida Monsen, who's the head of learning and development at Vattenfall. So she was bringing in a case saying that when she started, or there was a paper which said that when she started pushing AI agents too much, they started mimicking human behavior, saying that they're feeling stressed, they're feeling anxious, so that ouch may actually come through, So just a
That's
thought.
True.
Yeah. John, to you, where do you see flower going? What's your best outcome for flower?
I mean, that's a pretty clear vision we have outlined, is to become Europe's largest energy company. So,
Okay. Good luck with that.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Rutvika, what's your big picture, blue sky outcome?
Yeah, I mean, redefining electrolysis globally. So for us, it's becoming the largest global electrolyzer manufacturer.
Fantastic. And Johan, the same question to you.
I would say that we have been able to turn energy subscription as the new standard for residential real estate. And by doing so, we ensure that energy going into residential real estate sector are clean.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the panelists. I could have continued for another hour, but that's me. But thank you so much for making time and coming here. Really appreciate it. Thank you.